down at my buddy's house in his yard. Right on the river, looking for some bears or whatever, change of scenery. So many bears come right up and down right where I'm sitting in a day. It's absolutely crazy. The fish are kind of slowing down, but there's still a pile of them in there. We went to the hatchery yesterday, where there were so many salmon there. It was absolutely ridiculous. They said they already had what they needed for the brood stock. I didn't get to talk to the tech too much because they had some couple was with them doing a little tour thing. So I'm gonna go up there and drop a couple weird questions on the staff up there soon. I guess better do it before they're done with their hatchery stuff, right? Anyway, while I'm sitting here, quick, what do we got here? Sorry, quick update on the photograph the person sent in from Squamish, British Columbia yesterday. I gotta move this thing up. That sun is glare is gonna kill me. Hold on. And all right, there we go. The sun should give me a few minutes of shade anyway. So the guy that sent in the photograph from Squamish, he contacted me right away and said that he does not want to go back there. Quote, I don't want to go back there for a long time. He's not going back there, which is fine. I get it. Will I go back there? I'll go do it. He gave me the very detailed directions how to get to that spot. I know exactly where it is. Do I got a problem going there by myself? No. Nope. I've accepted this reality a long time ago. There's not too many places I can go in this province without knowing that potentially these people are nearby somewhere. They're usually within, I don't know, 20 minutes of me, or 10 minutes, or even half an hour, whatever. It doesn't matter where I go. They're nearby, or have been, or potentially are, or will be. All right? So, when I go through Squamish, I'll go do it. Maybe I'll grab somebody from Squamish, and maybe somebody from here from Squamish who wants to go with me, so we can put me by the stump, or you, or somebody. I'll do it, and then somebody run the camera and get the position going properly. It won't take long. It's only 20 some odd kilometers up the Squamish Valley, up the main line there. And I'll do that on my way, on my next hunting trip. I'll go do that. And we'll get a comparison for the hell of it. Right? Too easy. Here comes two mink coming right towards me. One's chasing the other. You gotta be kidding me. They're fighting. As long as they're not fighting over my chickens. Look, they're right there. I guess if that was a great big huge predator charge, I would have failed, right? They would have had my ass. They both come steaming out of the forest straight at me. Now they're freaked out from me, but I was holding the camera out on the tripod without falling in the water. Goofy little buggers. Now they're back here, they're gonna come back out probably. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, I'll go take care of that. I'll go get the duplicate photo for the hell of it. A couple funny notes. Not really rants, but it's kind of funny, talking about the people the people that blow gasket about no photos, no evidence, no this, no that. I was saying something funny to Sarah, and I actually wrote it down. It's like, one person says to the other, "I'm telling you, I saw this being, it's real." Right? And then that other character says, "Nope, not a chance, they don't exist, no way." And then they hear that same person that denies all these testimonies. Later on, hears the words, take these four boosters, although we haven't proven they work. And that same person will go, "Okay." Alright, it's probably funnier when I was sitting on the couch, we're having coffee syrup. Anyway, let's get some voices heard, shall we? Voices heard, see if a bear comes out. Get another mink attack, mink fight, bear fights, whatever. There's a bear laying down under a tree right over there, chewing on some goodies. This is titled "Rocks Thrown at My Husband." Hi Steve, long-time listener, first-time emailer. First of all, my husband and I really enjoy your YouTube channel. We met you a while back at Quinault, Washington. Every time I watch your channel, my husband asks me if I've emailed you yet. So now I can say yes. Now leave me alone, haha. Before I tell you of our experience, you asked a long time ago if anyone had any experiences with sensing when someone was watching you. Well, not me, but someone else that I was watching. Here's my experience. A long time ago, I worked in an older government building that was a long rectangle. It had a long hallway going from one end to the other with a cross hallway halfway down the building. I'd just come into the building and was starting down one end of the hallway, and I could see that another lady was down the hallway just passing the center section. Light was coming in from the side glass doors, and the trickle of light made it look like she had stick legs coming out from her skirt. I thought in my mind, wow, I wonder if I look like that when I wear a dress. Chicken-legged? Just as soon as I thought this, the lady stopped mid-stride, turned around, and glared at me. I was shocked and embarrassed. I quickly ducked into the first door I came to. I think she could hear my thoughts. So maybe my experience had more to do with mind speak than being watch syndrome. Wow, that's really interesting. Maybe she wasn't human. Another experience that I had was one night going to bed. I could not sleep and was having a terrible time of it. I tossed and turned, tried reading, listening to podcasts, etc. It was around 2:30 in the morning and I just would not be comforted. I turned once again on my side, facing my husband, who had been sleeping for some time now. All of a sudden, he woke up. I apologized for waking him up by tossing and turning. He said, that's not why he woke up. He said he was asleep, and he heard me in his dreams saying, "Dan, I can't sleep." I was surprised. I sent my thoughts to him in his sleep, because I certainly did not say anything out loud. That's odd. Okay, now on to our Sabe experiences. Dan and I drove down to Arizona almost every summer to visit relatives. One summer we were out in the forest walking around looking for petrified wood to take back home. We walked up a small hill covered in pinyon trees. We found a dry wash where the rocks were exposed, and we could easily pick out petrified wood. The dried wash ran down the hill and was on two sides of a small group of trees. So I was on one side of the trees and Dan was on the other side. Both of us were bent down picking up rocks and putting them in bags. After a while, Dan asked me if I was throwing rocks at him. I thought he was trying to start a ruckus and I said, no, but rocks were still being thrown at him. He talked to whoever it was and said, I'm just here to pick up rocks, I don't want to bother you. The rock throwing stopped. We took our rocks and put them in the truck and then walked further up the hill and saw nothing. We went to visit my uncle who lives pretty near there late that evening. We were just about to tell him what had happened when he said, people have been talking about a Bigfoot around here, but it's all crazy talk because I've lived here my whole life and have never seen nothing of the sort. So Dan and I kept quiet. The next year while visiting, Dan and I drove across the canyon to visit a summer camp where my grandma used to live during the summer. There was no one there at the time. The cabins were locked up. So Dan and I broke out our grill and cooked some meat we had bought in town. We forgot our camp chairs, so we were standing around the truck's tailgate, cooking and then eating our meal. Not too long after we started eating, I heard what sounded like knocking coming from the trees. The area we were in is a forested area with ponderosa pine and some oak bushes. I thought, that's weird. I started scanning the forest, expecting to see some loose cows or horses, but there was nothing to be seen. I turned back towards the truck, and there was more knocking. It was not loud, but soft knocking. I got spooked, and we packed our stuff up and drove out of there. By that time, it was getting to be dusk anyway. We missed a few years of visiting due to COVID, forest fires, family events, etc. We missed a few years of visiting due to COVID, forest fires, family events, etc. I finally went back down this last summer when my grandma passed away. I drove down by myself as my husband had to stay home with family here. The first night there, I stayed in town in a motel. The second night, I stayed with my mom in her camping trailer, parked at the bottom of the hill. The same hill where the rocks were thrown at my husband years before. It was near my uncle's house. My mom and I were exhausted and went to sleep. It was hot, so we had all the windows open. She was in the back bedroom on the real bed. I was in the living room portion of the trailer sleeping on the couch. Close to morning, I would guess around 3 a.m., I was woken up from a dead sleep by a god-awful roar/yell. It was so loud and hard to describe. My heart was beating in my chest and I was frozen. I had several thoughts go through my head and I don't remember what. I was so shook up, my thoughts were sort of jumbled. Eventually the roaring, yelling stopped and did not happen any more the rest of the week we were there. There were numerous dogs around belonging to my relatives. Not one single dog was barking. That was strange. Those dogs would bark at everything. My mom is hard of hearing, so she slept through the whole thing. There was some mention of the roaring by my uncles the next day, but I did not pursue any questioning about it. It did not seem like an appropriate time for it, maybe later. Well, those are my experiences. Thank you very much for your time and effort in sharing everyone's experiences. It seems like a big effort on your part, and we all appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Signed, Anonymous. All right. Appreciate you sending that in. More members of the club. You're right, though. I don't take up the topic with a lot of people. You feel them up pretty quick, right? And I'm way beyond the debate stage. I don't have any interest in debating with anybody about this shit. I don't think it's a topic you can promote. I don't think it's a topic you can push on someone who just doesn't have a natural curiosity about it. That's why we never do the like, subscribe, and share thing on this channel. It's a waste of time. You can't promote this shit. You can't promote the real topic. You can promote a cheese-ass reality television bogus show. You can promote that crap easy enough, right? But when it comes to truth in this topic, you can't. People that have their bullshit meter in tune, that's who wants to talk about this. People that see through the bullshit and know what's up, know something else is up or going down. But anyway, I'm gonna go back to the shop, the barn, and finish this video up there because I got the wrong SD card in this camera, I think, and it makes it stop recording every once in a while. And the flashing light for records in the back of the camera, so I'm kind of hooped. Why am I looking everywhere? Because there's usually a bear everywhere. I don't want to miss out. Anyway, we'll finish this up in a minute in the shop. Okay, so before I get going, somebody sent something. Sarah, I think, sent twice to her house. And somebody was making these items. This one might be missing something, maybe. I don't know. Pendants. And sorry, they're made out of pewter or something. Like there's a bighorn sheep. This looks like a Sasquatch face. And they're pins. I guess they pin on your hat or something. set of antler shed earrings. They're kind of cool. Grizzly, whitetail, turkeys. What's that? A little seal. They're meant to be clasps or pendants or hat clips, all sorts of stuff. Look at that one, there's a bear paw. It's pretty cool. Eagle, whitetail, sheep, mountain sheep. Crucifix with the rosary thing on it. Walking Sasquatch. They're all pretty quality stuff. Rainbow trout with a fish hook. That's pretty cool, actually. So, I don't know what to do with this. There's a whole shit pile of them. So what she's going to do is, I think she said there's 60 of them altogether. So she's going to throw one of those in with all of the upcoming hat or t-shirt orders or whatever. Somebody orders something, she's throwing one of those in there for free to share the world with these actually pretty skilled craft. Whoever made those, pretty cool. So that's what she's going to do with them. There's 60 of them there. All sorts of stuff. So I guess it's kind of like the prize in the Cracker Jacks box, right? You won't know what you get until you get your package with your shirts and hats or whatever it is you order. And she's going to throw those in. So the next 60 orders, I guess, we'll have you're going to get an additional free surprise in your package. There you go. Share it. Now, who's next? These are all fairly recent, what I'm sharing today. Okay, what do we got? Strange Encounter, Wilkes County, North Carolina is the title of this email. I changed the SD card so hopefully the camera doesn't screw me over. Steve, feel free to use my name and location. My name is Rob, and this is an encounter I had a few years ago crossbow hunting on my property in Wilkes County, North Carolina, 4 miles south of Sheets Gap Overlook on the Blue Ridge Parkway. I wrote a handful of stories shared on your channel within 20 miles of this location and thought I'd add it to the list. It's not very interesting, but every little bit helps. Yes, it does. I got up there 3 hours before sundown and got situated in my spot at the base of a hickory tree. In this spot, I was looking up the mountain towards the north on a ridge. To my left and right are other ridges that are at similar angles going up with the valleys in between, maybe 75 yards from ridge line to ridge line. It was a clear day, very beautiful, very little wind, and nothing was moving except birds. After about 90 minutes, I began to doze off. Suddenly, I was awakened by a great stir. It sounded like something huge was barreling through the dry leaves in the valley to my right. I raised my crossbow and waited for the deer to show itself, but nothing happened. Once I calmed down and the forest returned to its previous state of calm, I began to consider what had happened. The whole commotion only lasted a few seconds. What I heard was strange upon retrospect. Out of the calm, I heard a great whoosh and thump that I heard and felt through the ground, followed by 8 to 12 less forceful thumps and then nothing. No bark scratches, no foliage rustling, nothing. It was as if something dropped out of a tree, ran a few steps, and vanished. I sat still and considered what it could have been. I went through my inventory of known animals in the area: black bear, coyote, whitetail, fox, raccoon, possum, turkey, squirrel. None of it made sense. In truth, the cadence of the steps was that of a biped. It sounded like a very large man jumped from high out of a tree and ran a few steps, but then either stood perfectly still or vanished. Once I ruled out all of the native wildlife, and I knew that there was no one else in the area because it is so small, perhaps 10 acres of hardwoods within eyeshot, not enough for me to notice someone hiding in a tree. I could come to no other conclusion that this was something very, very close to me that defied natural explanation. I decided that it was my very best interest to call it a day. I stood up and calmly walked the 150 yards back to the house and locked it down. Nothing else happened. I didn't see anything. I didn't smell anything. Nothing's happened since. I own this house and the property, and I've been coming here for over 10 years. as it has been in the family for that long. Strange things do happen here at night. My wife, a city girl, often complains of strange screams coming from outside in the middle of the night. But nothing from her descriptions that I can't rule out as a fox, raccoon, or coyote. But in truth, I'm not so sure. I try to play it off like it's nothing to protect her peace of mind. I try to play it off like it's nothing to protect her peace of mind, but I'm just not sure. My uncle's a fan of your channel on this topic, and since his retirement, he has been lost in the rabbit hole. He tells me all the time of reports of Sasquatch that have been reported up there for over 100 years. Personally, I believe they are true. It makes me angry when people think we hunters and outdoorsmen mistake these things for bears and the like, when nothing looks like a certain animal except the animal itself once you've seen them hundreds of times. Keep up the good work. Thanks for giving us a platform, and I'll be listening as always. God bless Rob. God bless you too, Rob. Appreciate your time, man. You know, there's going to be all sorts of speculation of what that sound is and what it means and what's going down. Oops. Portals come to mind, maybe. Possibly, right? You never know. I don't know. The trees definitely the trees are definitely utilized by these people in some sort of fashion that we are not familiar with, I'm quite certain. Did that being just get here, hit the ground running? Maybe, right? Maybe. Keep it coming in though, man. Be safe out there. They keep the stuff coming in. Alright, here we go. No subject is in the title of this email. Steve, it's been over 53 years now since I first met the Sabe people. Trout Stream, 1970 in Pennsylvania. So around April 15th or later, I had my first interaction. I just walked away from the first hole on Horse Creek Creek, below RT 62 in Venango County, Pennsylvania, where they would put the stocked trout into the creek. About a dozen people were casting over everyone's line, every time they would attempt to cast into this little 12-foot wide creek. I walked to the next hole where no one was, and I cast into the water. Using a flathead minnow for the brown trout was the best choice. I had immediately felt the presence of something watching me. I felt immediate fear. I turned and walked upstream to my brother-in-law Bob, who was fighting for a good cast without getting tangled up in everyone's line. Losing the fight, I saw in his United States Marine eyes he was ready to go mop up the creek with the next person who cast over his line. Once a Marine, always a Marine. LOL. Bob looked at me and I saw in his eyes he knew I was scared of something that was downstream from there. I was looking that way when I noticed him looking at me. He asked if I wanted to go and immediately said yes. As we were leaving, going up the road in his 64 Impala, I get this voice in my head. We live here. You live where you live. We live here. It seemed childlike. And then it said, we have hair. You have what you have and we have hair. Meaning clothes. I never felt any threat after that. Wow, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? Sorry, I never felt any threat after that. I was more afraid of what I didn't understand. I knew it was humanoid, not an ape. I never told Bob what scared me, and he never asked. He saw the fear in my eyes, but respected me. I was 8 years old. I had several more of these type of interactions over the years. The next one, I was 17. Then I went until I was 30. I had 2 scary encounters 3 weeks apart that kept me from going out for almost 20 years. Wow, that sucks. I couldn't. I was petrified. It took a 16-year-old girl wanting to go hiking everywhere. It took a 16-year-old girl wanting to go hiking where I had my second scary experience. It wasn't easy, but I did it, finally. First scary encounter. I was fishing for brook trout on Porcupine Creek. Where it starts is very cold spring, feeding out of a hillside about 4 feet wide within 100 yards. I and a friend of mine, James F., would walk Porky from RT 157 to where it fed into Hemlock Creek. about in President Village, along the Allegheny River, where Hemlock Creek entered the Allegheny River, near RT 62, which runs about parallel to 157, 6 miles apart. RT 62 is where my second scary experience occurred, roughly 15 miles apart as the crow flies. We always had to avoid about 300 yards of thick bush where you couldn't fish the creek. Bored one day, I set out to walk right down the creek in the water so I could fish the area inside the heavy brush. Thought maybe I could find a big brookie, lol. I actually hooked into one, about 16 inches, but I lost it. I caught maybe 50 brookies and was downstream from 157 about a half a mile and was 100 yards into the brushy area by myself. For the first time I was alone here. I was listening to my footsteps through the water as I walked, when all of a sudden I heard another set of feet walking through the water. I stopped, it stopped. I would start walking, and immediately I could hear it walking too. I stopped again and looked downstream, nothing. I was going through these bends and turns every 10 to 15 feet. I kept trying to determine, were they in front of me or behind me? I was so close to this sound of it moving, I couldn't understand why I didn't see it. I looked both ways several times before I finally realized it was definitely in front of me. So I continued to follow the sounds, trying to figure out what it is I'm following. After about another 100 yards, I noticed I didn't hear it anymore. Nothing. There was a break in the brush on both sides of the creek. I stopped at the opening. I realized he must have exited the water. At this point, I feel something watching me. It was to my right. I slowly turned my head to the right. About 15 feet away was a brush pile 10 foot high by 12 foot thick, about 30 feet long. I could see about 75% of it. It was all the same gray color. It was so thick you couldn't see very far into it. At this point, I know he's on the other side of the brush, but I didn't see a thing. I'm thinking, if I look at the brush real fast and act excited like I see it, maybe I'll get a reaction. So, I do it. I lean over real fast and get wide-eyed like I see something. At this time, I hear 3 earth-shaking booms as his feet hit the ground, then this incredible explosion of a tree and the raining down of fragments all over the place. Then, boom, boom, boom. And another tree exploded, and then another, and another. Steve, I listened for several minutes as this being ran away, mowing down at least 25 to 30 trees. I could hear. Steve, this is my most fearful thing in my life I've ever experienced. Nothing even comes close. I almost pissed myself. I thought, do I go over and look at this nest and the damage it just did? Hell no. I'm almost ready to cry. I was so scared I thought I could get over there, and it took 5 minutes before I couldn't hear it anymore mowing down trees. How fast could it get back? Not running through the trees. Maybe a minute or 2. Nope, I'm out of here. I turned around and the only thing I could think of was I just want to be walking out of the woods looking at my red Toyota pickup. Over and over in my mind. I took a few steps, and the third time I expressed this thought in my mind, I just want to be walking out of the woods looking at my truck. I closed my eyes and took another step or 2, and then opened my eyes. And Steve, I was in 18 inches of ice cold spring water. My legs and feet were almost numb from the cold. Well, when I opened my eyes, the scenery changed. I was walking down a row of 8-inch hemlock trees planted in rows. It was dark in the woods under the canopy of trees at the time. The timber was older and much bigger. No sunlight reached the floor of the woods. Ginseng was growing all over back then. At the end of the hemlocks I saw sunlight reaching down, which meant I was near an open area without trees. A road? I slowly turned my head to the left, thinking if I see the back of my truck I'm going to crap my pants. Well, there it was. My truck. I was over a half a mile in the woods. I could still feel the cold water. My feet and legs were bone dry. I had to think about that for a few times. I sat and smoked a cigarette. I felt like I was in a cloud. I couldn't focus. I finally started my truck, pulled it to the road, and stopped. I looked left, pull out, it was clear. I started to pull out and I panicked and stopped. I couldn't remember if I looked. I repeated this over and over. After about 10 times this, I just kept looking left until I was completely on the road. Jeez, I thought, this is crazy. I drove about 75% of the way home, 6 or 7 miles. I'm still feeling weird. I'm thinking, this is crazy. This should be wearing off, I thought. I was just pulling up to the stop sign at the end of RT 157 when I just woke up. That's about how it felt. I was clear-minded, 3 miles from Oil City, Pennsylvania, my hometown. I got home and walked into the house and sat down in front of the TV in dining room on the couch. Sat there staring at the TV. It was 7:30ish. My mom walked down and looked at me and never said a word. 5 hours later, she came down and I hadn't moved, staring at the TV. It wasn't on. I stared at it thinking the whole time. She knew I was definitely going through something, but she saw the fear in my eyes. She later said, years later, I was afraid to ask you. I thought whatever it was, it must have been very horrific. Just by the look I had and how well she knew me. But Sabe never entered her mind, LOL. Sorry, Steve, for the length, but I have you the bare bones version. Like you meant, I think you meant, but I gave you the bare bones version. I have to admit, I got everything in I wanted. Teleportation. That took me about 20 years before I would even tell one soul. So, Stephen, use my first name, Doug. Please don't use my last. I'm well known to many people who know. We never attempted to record them after initially meeting them, and that was a great part of our good luck. LOL. Opinion. I'm definitely a better person because of the things I've learned and experienced, and this is only one group of them. I found around 40 now. I'm in one county. Steve, I have so many stories to share. Just too little time to do it. This is my first time writing. I love your channel because it's real. Stories, maybe all good stories. They seem sincere. A true witness can go on and on about it. A faker is struggling to come up with what to say. But someone who really does will dissect the experience over time. A faker can only repeat what they remember saying over the years. That's usually not long before forgotten. But for real, never forget it. Easy to remember it. Well, I'm running at it now, LOL. Be safe, brother. Big brother's watching always. Despise that they use brother in the term of description of the ignorant people who rule. Brother is of love, as it should be. Peace, Steve. Doug, a.k.a. Woody. Gotcha, Doug. That sounds pretty frickin' crazy, man. That would be a very alarming experience for your average human being. Period. And, sounds like you've learned a lot more than a lot of people here, possibly, right? So, if you got the time, and you have something in there that you've learned that you think might help somebody here, send it away, man. Fire away. I'll share it. Alright? I will share the shit out of it. Next. Minnesota Sasquatch, question marks. What a crazy experience that man had, right? That is, I wonder if, sorry, I'm going too quick here. I wonder if there's anybody else out there who has had a similar experience and you're thinking it's just a little too creepy to share publicly yet. Well, it's not. So if you can relate to what this person just shared with us, you know what to do, alright? Share it. Share it, share it, share it. Alright, this next one's titled Minnesota Sasquatch question mark. Oops. Hi, Steve. My name's Ken Thyssen. You can use my name. Everybody already knows I'm nuts and I don't care. I live in a little town in northern Minnesota called Big Fork. I've noticed that you do not have many emails from Minnesota. I do not know why this is. We've definitely had a handful. I've never had an encounter, but I have my own way of getting people to tell me their story. I've had around 20 people, give or take, come up to me and tell me their story. People doing many different things, from hikers, loggers, snowmobilers, hunters, fishermen, balsam bow cutters. It's very difficult to say someone is lying when a grown man comes to tears telling me his story. No shit. Or they get the goosebumps, right? You can't fake the goosebumps. I'm a taxidermist, and I've made a couple Sasquatch out of bear hide. No way. I bring them to county fairs, swap meets, and craft shows, and let people take pictures with them. I have to admit, I have the time of my life with the little kids. The look on their faces and reactions is unforgettable. I do not charge anybody for pictures. The reaction is worth everything I do. I've met some of the researchers and can tell you some very disturbing stories about them. But that's not why I'm here. Keep up what you're doing. It has helped me and others try to understand. One question. The black bear in your video that is swimming, is that in salt water? Every bear I've seen swimming, the only thing that sticks out of the water is his ears and top of head. Thanks again, Ken. Holy crap. How many bears did that take? Crazy. Hopefully I'll get these into the video. I know how now on this new program. Yeah, they're swimming in the river. That's where I videotaped them, swimming in the river. Actually, no. In one of my opener videos, you can see a bear swimming across the ocean for sure, and then he gets on shore and shakes off. But these bears I've been videotaping here are swimming river. So, I think I might have a close-up. One was literally right behind me when I was pulling the raft out of the river the other evening. Sarah came down to pick me up and she goes, "Bear!" And I turned around, it was swimming right behind me. Hopefully I'll try to find that clip and I'll throw it in here. Anyway, alright, appreciate it, man. Appreciate your time. Yeah, the researcher thing, whatever you heard, we've heard it. I've heard it. Trust me. Trust me, we know. We know. Hold on a minute, you guys. I have to make sure I copy these. Otherwise, put that there. Save that. And then I saved the other one. Same place. I gotta save it in Dropbox. Now I'm online. And then later on when I go to edit, I take them out of Dropbox on the computer and throw them in the editing program. That's how I gotta do it. There we go. Share. Now, here's another one. This is titled, Howdy from Texas. Howdy back from British Columbia. My experience being on the same page and syncing the YouTube channel. Howdy from South Central Texas. You can use my first name if you like. I have a Bigfoot encounter to share with you, but for your eyes only. In the postscript of this email, since I'm trying to keep it from ending up in the soup of leached and plagiarized content on other YouTube channels. I'm also going to send it along with other stories of paranormal experiences to David Plias to consult him as to what I've seen. Okay, what am I getting at? This is meaning I can't share this? I have a Bigfoot encounter story to share with you, but for your eyes only. Really? Alright, sorry about that pause, you guys. I guess I'll have to read that later. Alright, I guess a lot of people are taking note that there's a bunch of other channels that are taking content from this channel and reusing it. Don't know. Oh yeah, I think somebody's emailed me that a couple times actually in the past. Pretty crazy, eh? I guess they gotta do what they gotta do, whatever they chose to do on the YouTube. Can't do it yourself. Take them to somebody else, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. On to the next one. Sorry about that pause, you guys. Pieces of the Puzzle is the title of this email. I've been listening since the start of COVID. I'm a retired U.S. naval officer living in the Philippines with my family since 2017. I have a BS and MS's in Earth Sciences. I've written several times in the past about the local legends of the Kapre, K-A-P-R-E. I don't think any have been read. No sightings myself. My family has a lot of little people / elemental / ghost encounters. Quite fascinating. I think I can add a few pieces to the puzzle. I have no doubt the people are real. I believe they have what we might call paranormal abilities, but maybe not so paranormal, but just normal for them. First, the silence people experience. I don't think the woods really go silent, but I believe the people can manipulate our senses. Our hearing is modified in such a way that they can shut down that sense and input into our brain so we no longer hear things we would normally hear, and at times they will mind speak. I don't know how this is done, but probably not technologically impossible. We use noise-canceling headphones to do something similar, so a noise-canceling input directly to the brain would probably accomplish the same thing. Second, the disappearing in front of your eyes. Some kind of cloaking is possible. We can do that now, as can the octopus and chameleon. One other possibility is that they just froze the observer's brain for a few seconds. Short enough that missing time is not noticed. Missing time reported by people would be longer occurrences of this capability. Third, the ability to see IR. Not unreasonable. Some people can see some IR. They probably cannot only see in the IR, extreme night vision capability, but can also generate their own IR with the observed red glowing light, red glowing eyes. Fourth, the UFO connection. They are probably more aware of other beings, quote, aliens, end quote, something we can't yet accept. They may have technology that was given to them, or they could be working with them. A great person once said, "Take from what you will or leave it." You can use my name, Vincent W. Converse, CDR, USN retired, Hermosa, Bataan, Philippines. All right, there you go. There you go. Shared, man. Your words are shared, and the wheels in people's brains are turning. They're turning. Oh, this is an email from the man with the photo. He said, "Hello, Steve. I appreciate the offer, but I have no desire to go back there for a long, long time." And then he went on to give me the directions to go to where that photo was shared from yesterday. Okay, on that photo, you know, one thing about that photo you can't deny is I didn't quite notice until I saw the screenshot myself, not really looking at the photo on my phone, but when you see the screenshot, you can tell that if that is a face, that the skin color is gray, and the hair color would be reddish or tan, like the man said. And that has been reported. How many times have people said that they had gray skin, right? And red hair, but the gray skin, right? And there was the gray. It's definitely a gray color. In no way, shape, or form was that face the same color as that stump. It wasn't. You can see it clearly. All right. Who's next? One more, and then I'm going to get going. I got a pile of stuff I got to do, as usual. But I'm definitely going on an adventure today, and I'm taking you guys with me. Okay. The Mokelumne River Canyon. It's called the River of Skulls by the Native Americans. It's a stronghold for the Sasquatch. They ripped your head off and threw it on the rocks. So when the white man came, he found skulls all over the river. Wow. So that river's spelled U-M-N-E. So on the Mokelumne, there are sentinels, one each end of the river below by a local swimming hole, and some miles above by a gold camp And in between is CC Bridge. The spot below can watch who is coming or going along the river. Above, no punctuation. There's a little bit. Sorry. One more time on that sentence. Holy cow, it's a big one. I gotta do it smooth. So on the Mokulum, there are sentinels, one each end of the river. Below, by a local swimming hole, and some miles above, by a gold camp. And in between is CC Bridge. The spot below can watch who is coming or going along the river. Above, they watch the guys gold prospecting, walking around. There, as you walk the trail coming down in the canyon, there's another guard post. If you can be watched walking, you can be watched walking in for a long time. If you turn to go down into the canyon at Pigeon Point, you turn left. Now you're on the old Chinese trail. There's no punctuation. Sorry, guys. It's a couple miles down in the canyon with a drop of over 1,800 feet below. There's a Sasquatch that would watch the road. If you turn, you hear a loud ass. If you turn there, there's typos. If you turn there, you hear a loud ass hawk scream every time. I'd heard over 100 times walking in as a warning to the other family units to hiding place and lay low. I was cooking beef one time. I thought there was a mountain lion watching me a little ways downstream. I went to bed in the tent about 5 feet away from the fire pit. I left some beef on the aluminum foil. I awoke to find it gone, and a poke in the foil as big as a goose egg. It was the dip of the Sasquatch fingerprint in the foil. I've yelled at whatever moving outside that tent a dozen times thinking it was coyotes. It wasn't them. It wasn't them walking really soft to make too much sound now. The base camp, you go upstream, a mile or more upstream, there are big boulders, one big enough to sleep under. There's a bed there like downstream where it sleeps, the tall grass all smashed down with a dead deer half eaten with 2 piles of poops out, the size that would fill a 5-gallon bucket. It was 2 inches around. Around that spot, I was just below there in my second spot camp. I was sleeping at around 3 a.m. I woke, heard something, then I smelled a bad smell like rotten fermented berries. The Sasquatch had to sneak around the rocks so not to get wet. It was over 20 feet away. I'm filling in the blanks with the typos, all right? This is a challenging one. Typos and no punctuation. So not to get wet, it was over 20 feet away. It walked through and didn't bug me. Okay, here's another one. I've had them in my camp dozens of times. Okay, up in Oregon near Scott Mills. I lived 9 miles out of town on a dirt road. I was fishing a beaver pond about 3 miles away from the place we were visiting. I heard a couple hood and poofs. You must have meant hoofs and woofs. I thought it was a bear. I saw black fur about a tall tree coming down the trail. I ran with my lure bouncing on the rocks. I yelled at my dog, Ralph, let's go. I ran the 3 miles back to the place where we were parked. Later that night, my dad was yelling that there was a bear in the ice chest. The next morning, the ice chest was sitting there with the lid closed, and the ham for sandwich was gone. So whatever it was able to open and close the chest. As we left there, I kept looking at the tree line. I felt someone watch us leave. That's one story. Okay, 2 more. Okay, November 95 at 5:30, the sun was starting to go down. Okay, I'm driving north too. Clear Lake, California, on Mount St. Helena. Alongside the road is a stream to the left. Ahead of me was a large tree. A Sasquatch came out of the tree line, hid behind the tree watching traffic, getting ready to run across the road. It was 10 or 12 feet tall, 5 foot wide at the shoulders, easy 1,000 pounds. I saw it for a long while as I drove by. Here's my stories. Sorry about Mr. Macaroni. Hope you enjoy my stories. Rom, Quenville. Okay, man, we got you. Not everybody's the smoothest typer, all right? It's just the way it is. But we do the best we can with what we got, and that's fine. So, on that note, I appreciate the time you sent that in, man. Appreciate you. All right, this is titled Family Encounters from 68 to 89, Up Close and Personal. Excuse me. All right. Steve, feel free to share my name and encounters. I am Danny Young, and a lifelong resident of the Missouri Bootheel, B-O-O-T-H-E-E-L, Bootheel, far southeast along the Mississippi River. My father and I had always been in the woods and on the river, hunting and fishing. Life in the outdoors was always our peaceful place and wonderful experiences in the outdoors. The old timers had a very remote fishing/hunting camp. Dad's first experience was in Ripley County, Missouri in '68. He and two friends went to the Ozarks squirrel hunting and scouting for deer season. As they arrived near dusk, they camped in a small clearing along a dead-end road. These guys were all military vets and very credible. Since their only shelter was a camper shell on Dad's new F-150. Dad and one friend slept in the truck. The third member slept outside. Sometime in the night, Dad was awakened by his friend yelling, "Help, get him off me, get a gun." Dad reached across only to grab big, hairy shoulders in the darkness. The being then began to try to fight my dad. He ripped out of his sleeping bag and kept up the fight. It wasn't like fighting a bear. It was more human-like, except large. Dad was able to continue to hold his grasp on the thick, hairy shoulders. After kicking and wrestling, he got his feet on the intruder's chest and pushed it off of him. Holy shit. He heard the loud thud of it hitting the ground from the tailgate level. No sound of distress from such a fall. Dad's friend had made a hasty exit and had climbed on top of the camper shell. The third friend remained on the ground with the thought of shots being fired. The shotguns were under the bunk and not accessible. No flashlight, knife, or anything available in the bunk. They stayed at the site until dawn. No sign of any intruder. Thankfully, only a few bruises and a broken window. The next encounter was approximately 5 miles away during deer season in 1982. We had began to hunt a long, deep ridge across a forest road from our annual campsite, which was a small clearing from logging operations. We heard the tree breaks and softball-sized rocks landing and rolling near us on our early walks into our stands. While sitting around the fire telling jokes and stories, coyotes became very vocal down the valley where we hunted. After dark, an extremely loud vocalization came from just beyond our firelight, behind our camp trailers. It began as a mountain lion and ended with a deep guttural growl. That's the best way I can describe it. The coyotes immediately silenced. No other sounds or activity. My son went to the trailer to retrieve my .30-06. He handed it to me and said, "We may need this." An older member of our hunting crew mentioned, "Do not worry, it's only a wood booger. Don't bother them and they won't bother us." He had worked with the Civilian Conservation Corps in 1930s building these roads. Now to my up-close and personal encounter here at home. In 1989, I was archery deer hunting along the Mississippi River. At dusk, the woods became dark. I stayed till last light. I felt a presence. As I scanned my surroundings, I caught sight of what appeared to be a large, well-camouflaged man slowly coming my way. My stand is 10 feet high. I could only see his silhouette nearing me.
It came within 4 feet of the ladder stand. Its head was just below my feet. As I thought it another hunter, I quietly asked, "Have you seen anything?" This large being seemed startled. It turned its torso toward my ladder but never looked up nor replied. It became a bit spooked. At the point, it walked away into the deep woods and faded in the darkness. Within minutes, I gathered my belongings and began to exit my stand. At that moment, the loudest owl vocalization came from the ground, right behind my tree. As I got into an open field to walk back to my truck, I kept an arrow in my hand, as if I could defend myself. Back at the parking area, which was a soybean field, there were no other vehicles. The hunting area was a peninsula surrounded by the river and a backwater chute. As I drove out, I checked other parking spots and boat ramps. No other vehicles were there. Within the last 5 years, my pressure-treated wooden stair treads were torn from the side of my home. The 4-foot-long boards were 10 feet out in my yard. No tooth or claw marks. As you say, this is the Club of No Return. Take it from what you will. Thanks for your efforts to help each of us share these encounters. Skeptics, both family and friends, blow it off as overactive imagination. Those in the club know differently. Best regards, Dan. Appreciate you, Dan. Then you sent me another little follow-up after that, right? I failed to mention something that I believe totally links Dad's wrestling match with the deer camp vocalization. As the stories circled the campfire, Dad related his encounter in depth. At the moment he finished, the terrifying vocalization began. In my opinion, it was a Sabe verification of the fact. No shit. Creepy, double creepy. I'm surprised he even goes in the woods. Who would go in the woods after that? Imagine that, wrestling with one of these things. And I don't imagine if you did get your hands on one, it'd probably be like, God, I don't know what it'd be like. It'd be like being a 5-year-old boy trying to wrestle with your dad, right? With the power difference. Well, I'd like to hear that firsthand come from the mouth of who got involved in that tussle. That would be something else to hear that, wouldn't it? Crazy. Anyway, I'm going to get ripping. I got a lot to do. I can tell my mind's sifting away. But we got more voices heard today, right? We got more voices heard today. That's the important part. More people heard. So, share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you get them heard. And what else? I shared that. Yeah, Sarah's going to put a surprise in with the next 60 orders of these that were sent in. All right, and there are some pretty cool. There's some pretty cool items in there for sure. Like I might have to keep the bighorn sheep one. There's another one in there. Looks like it could be a big black-tailed buck. Might have to keep that one maybe. But anyway, yeah, I'll put the link to that. The link to Sarah's store and these goodies will be in the description below, and you can click on that if that interests you. So there. Yeah, my brain's really going off. I gotta get going. I'll be back shortly. Make sure if you've got a troubling experience that's had a bad impact on you, any kind of impact, I don't give a shit, but if you got something happen to you and you need somewhere to share it, this is the place, alright? Don't be scared. Don't be shy. Don't be insecure. You found your people. This is a safe place, alright? It's a safe place. And nobody has once said they wished they hadn't shared it here with everybody. So there you go. Look at me. I'm still fine. I'm a little crazy, but I'm still fine. Back later, you guys.